Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. So today I wanted to react to this video that Travis Gafford put out recently. By the time I'm recording this, it's like right when he uploaded it. I probably won't get to upload this video till later in the week, but I still wanted to get it out. And hey, I saw this tweet and I was like, oh, this is going to be a spicy one. Obviously, it's Travis Gafford with this stern face saying, why TSM sucks? And I think this is interesting because obviously Travis, has a lot to lose from posting a video like this. Why TSM sucks? He's going to be fine. He has sponsors. He has, Twitch and YouTube and all this stuff going on for him. And he has connections. He's got his media pass. He's got all these things going on. But, having a poor relationship with TSM isn't necessarily something he wants, I'm sure. But posting a video called TSM sucks, very, very interesting. I did want to take a look at it. I've already watched the video start to finish. I really, really love it. I think this is a great, great, great video. Just pointing out, I don't agree with everything he says. Obviously, I think that'd be weird to do, but I think there's a lot of great points. So I wanted to go over what he has to say in this video. And again, this thumbnail, this title, it's all just so good. Obviously, very, very clickbaity. Obviously, catches your attention. But I promise the video quality does back it up as well. I know I've had some people say they want me to react to more longer form stuff too. I want to just kind of chop this up, give my thoughts and opinions on a lot of the stuff he has to say here. I have ads turned on, so we might get hit with an ad during this video. Sorry if that happens. I'll kind of talk through it, but I do want to support Travis in this whole thing. And of course, I am going to drop a like on this video. This is his new video. TSM is terrible. My thoughts on what it actually means. And I want to record this now because I'm not sure if he's going to keep this up. I'm not sure if he's going to delete this one. So with that being said, let's get right into this.
Hey everyone, Travis here at the LCS studio for a bit of a different video today. It's funny that I'm doing this opinion piece here, but I actually just saw a Speak a tweet a few minutes ago, and now I've decided I want to respond to it, so we're pulling up a chair and talking out here. Of course, this coverage brought to you by Alienware. All right, as I record this, TSM is 1-8. They have lost every game except for one in the very first round robin of the LCS. It's historically bad for them, and I think it's tied among the worst starts ever in the LCS, up there with Golden Guardians and CLG and all that stuff.
Not
so
good.
It's just really, really bad. A couple of weeks ago, after week 2, the org was 0-4, and I actually went on Hotline League and Rift Reaction, my two shows, and shouted out TSM fans, because I frequently go to the TSM subreddit, and I go to the TSM, I see obviously comments from TSM fans and stuff on my YouTube comments, and I was actually quite impressed with how much the fans were holding the line in support of the players and of the team.
And I think a big reason for that, and a lot of people have talked about this, are like, wow, yeah, TSM fans are taking this rough start to the season pretty well. Things aren't that crazy. Things aren't that chaotic. And what a lot of people on Twitter have been talking about is the fact that a lot of the TSM fans that would have been crazy, would have been chaotic, would have been throwing their arms up, they already left. They're not supporting TSM anymore. They already went on to a whole nother organization. TSM, like a lot of the TSM fans of old, left after they had this disastrous offseason, and a lot of people saw the writing on the wall that this wasn't going to go very well. And a lot of the people that are still there, that are still supporting the fans, that are still on, the subreddit and YouTube and everything, these are fans that have bought into the rebuild and the development and knowing that this is supposed to be a long-term project or whatever. I don't think it's a long-term project going anywhere. But that's, I think, why we've seen a pretty good reaction, or at least a couple weeks ago we saw a pretty good reaction. Obviously, things have started to get worse, because a lot of those TSM fans are just not there anymore. They've moved on to another team or another esport or whatever.
And they were really excited about the team, even though they had the 0-4 start. Again, historically bad for the org, even at that time. I think they've never lost like 3 for 3 of their first 3 games, and obviously they went 0-4. So what changed then? Because things started to get really bad. Because if you haven't seen the Speak a tweet from moments ago, he basically was trying to.
And I will talk. I don't know when these videos are going to come out in what order, but I'll have a video talking about this as well. Speaka said the narrative have gotten out of hand. No one on the team was against Shenny shot calling. In fact, when he first told us after going 0-4, we all agreed no player played a part in deciding his benching. It was not anything gameplay related. I wish my only job was to jungle.
Correct this narrative that Shenny had been benched because of players and all this stuff. You can go look it up. We'll put it on the screen. And it's gotten to a point where he just had to come out and say something. And part of the reason is because after that 0-4 week, Shenny ended up getting benched. He got sent to Academy. I think they had not a great tweet around it, but whatever.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
And fans started to get really frustrated because Shenny did this stream where it was leaked, and it's kind of unclear to me at this time on if he knew that he was streaming. It sounds like from the post about it that he knew he was streaming because he'd like tried to turn off his stream, then saw he was still streaming, was interacting with the chat while having this conversation with an old teammate where he was talking about how he felt like TSM, the players, were not listening to his calls, and he should talk to Tactical a little bit, which I found a little disappointing. So
yeah, there's been a lot of weird clips coming out of TSM. I didn't love that Shenny was shit-talking Tactical. I didn't love the clip coming out about Spica, kind of shit-talking Shenny. There's been a lot of people taking maybe subtle jabs or jokes or whatever behind the scenes, and even if they are jokes or made in good fun or whatever, there's always a little bit of truth to every joke, and it's just kind of added to the weird, bad vibes going on behind the scenes with TSM.
First off, young dude in another country, struggling, and I thought it was pretty cool to initially see the fans support Shenny a lot whenever he got demoted, because people obviously know that going 0-4 and then getting demoted probably sucks for him. But this support for Shenny turned into this really kind of weird toxic thing, because when he leaked this stuff, which I think is like in pretty poor form, especially if he knew what was going on, the fans kind of immediately started turning on Tactical and Spica and all the players. And ever since then, I've seen just a lot of negativity around this roster. People forget Spica was the MVP last year, all right?
Now, this is where I don't necessarily agree with what Travis Gafford's saying, because, yes, there has been a lot of crazy negative toxicity, and that's obviously been happening. Yes, people have been flaming Shenny, people have been flaming Tactical, people have been flaming Spica. That's not been great. Some of it's been cringe, some of it's warranted, some of it is just fans, venting and whatever. But saying, hey, Spica's the defending MVP, yada, 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 that doesn't change the fact that he's been playing like one of the worst junglers in the LCS this season. And yeah, not playing well. He's also seen as like the shot caller. He's also, the guy, we hear some of the comms. He's like talking over Shenny or not listening to Shenny's calls, some of this stuff. There's been for sure some of this back and forth. Just because he was the MVP last year, that doesn't remedy a lot of the stuff of what's going on this season. So, I think if you just want to be, perma positive and oh yeah, we got the last year's MVP. Well, unfortunately, we're not playing in 2021 anymore. So that's kind of stuff I don't agree with a ton.
These are good players. Tactical's at Worlds. I personally think that the fans should continue to support their players even if they're having a tough time. And remember that, with teams, we kind of on the outside, especially fans, but even myself, it's kind of like an iceberg thing. You're only going to see what's on the surface. You never know what's going on underneath. For all we know, and I'm not trying to speculate here, but it's just an example, like Shenny could be incredibly toxic. TSM might not want to throw this player under the bus. The players just might decide not to play with him. And now everybody's like, oh yeah, Shenny's the best. All these other players suck, blah, blah, blah. We don't know. Like, maybe it is a situation where the players like turned on Shenny, though again, Spica seems to be debunking that. So it's just kind of disappointing to see everybody turn into rage towards the players. And in my opinion, where the fans should actually be expressing their frustration, because I am not saying that the players should not be frustrated. A 1-8 start, especially for a team like TSM, that's a source of frustration. This is not their first split in the LCS. It's not like they had to get a random roster last minute because they just bought a spot. Totally reasonable for people to be frustrated. They should be more frustrated, in my opinion, with the organization, who I think
110%. This is where he's about to start spitting a ton of facts. This is what I have said for so long, dating back to, last year was really the first year I did YouTube, but I've been saying it for a while. But last year, this whole offseason, TSM management, the support they have in place, a lot of the things they have going on, been making weird, terrible decisions for a long time. And that's why I didn't trust a lot of this rebuilding, a lot of this, new stuff that TSM was planning, a lot of the stuff that maybe sounded good on paper, but was always really set up to fail in reality. They handled the offseason poorly. They've handled the season poorly. And yes, now the players are taking a lot of flack and a lot of heat for it, and they're getting toxic towards. And I think it makes TSM an unattractive destination for free agents to come to now in the future, if it wasn't already. And it makes the organization look pretty weak and incompetent, even more so than potentially they already did, which I already think they did.
One, made off-season moves that were not in line with their previous off-season moves in terms of scale and commitment.
Yeah.
Who were unable to retain Bjergsen, and who also, I think, have done a really poor job of expectation setting. is this a development roster? There's been so much debate about whether or not they said development roster, like in the conversation with Parth and
this is what's been really, really weird for me as well, and especially even when I spoke with Dominic Callis, it's like, they're a development roster, they're going young, they're trying to save money, they're trying to build for the future, but also, I really, really care about winning, we're going to win, we're going to be competitive, we're going to Worlds this year. Which one is it, you know? Because on one hand, you're telling us it's a development roster, maybe it's okay to go 1-8. On the other hand, you're telling us, hey, we're going to turn this thing around by summer and we're going to Worlds, but also, we're not idiots. We can see that this team's 1-8 and the worst team in the LCS, and probably not going to Worlds in 2022, and then Speak is a free agent, Hooney's a free agent, Shenny's maybe gone for good. We're going to rebuild all over again in 2023 and be the worst team again. Like, yeah, what is going on? It's just a terrible direction for the organization.
Andy, in the video, they had said, like, some stuff about how it was a development roster, but they're still trying to build and all this stuff. So people have no idea what to actually expect. I did a poll back at the start of the split just asking where people thought the team was going to be, and something like over 60% of people thought that they were going to be in the top 5 or top 4. I don't know, whatever. We'll put it up on screen. So people just didn't know what to expect. Obviously, no one should have expected last place, in my opinion. I doubt that that's where TSM would have put it, but
crazy.
It's just made it very convoluted where people didn't know what the heck, like, okay, should we be losing these games? Is it okay? Like, how bad is it? Like, what should the team performance be? Mark has talked extensively about how he thinks that, like, with a lineup with the core that they had from last year, they should not be considered a development roster.
I've heard a lot of people say this. How is the defending MVP, a world finalist, and a guy who just went to Worlds last year, how is this a developmental roster? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
They should not be probably even the bottom half of the league. I don't want to put words into his mouth. You can go see it. He's talking about Hotline League and also Blame Game. But whatever. So I think it's just, that's where people should actually be frustrated. The other thing I want to talk about on this thing that really frustrated me is I've seen in that subreddit, and I don't know if there's been sentiment elsewhere about it, that people are sort of like angry about Bjergsen, or they feel betrayed by Bjergsen, or they think that he turned his back on the org. Fuck that. So for multiple years, Bjergsen took a salary that was way lower. He did not enter free agency. He did not play the game because he was actually really loyal to TSM and to the team.
This, I think, is so interesting because part of why TSM is not spending a ton of money this year, they claim, you know, what Reggie and the organization will tell you is, we tried to spend money the last 3, 4, 5 years, and it hasn't been working clearly. So we need to save some money, because how can we keep spending money if it's not working? And we need to go developmental. We need to go for the future so that we can eventually be good, and then maybe we'll spend some more money if it makes sense later on. But we can't just keep throwing money at the players that used to be good. We need to find the players who are going to be good. And this is just an absolute slap in the face. I've said this so many times. I can't believe TSM fans eat that up, because TSM has not tried spending money before. They'll tell you, we tried spending money and it didn't work. Yet here we hear that Bjergsen was always taking a pay cut. He was always being underpaid. And look at the TSM rosters. Just last year, they spent all this money on Sword Art. You had Lost as your AD carry. A couple of other years, you've had Grig as your AD carry, or as your jungler. You've had Mike Young. You've had Acadian. You've gone cheap at positions all the time. You've never spent all your money. And now you got this FTX money, and you still don't want to spend it. It's a slap in the face to fans. And it's a slap in the face to fans to tell us, hey, we tried spending money before and it never worked. No, you didn't. That's bullshit, and that's a lie. And you had the best player, the best player in LCS history taking a pay cut. You were playing on easy mode and being able to save money, and you still sucked. Parth, talk about how good of a GM, whatever he is. You had the best player in LCS history taking a pay cut. That makes your life as a GM a lot easier, and it makes your job as Reggie a lot easier, and it makes TSM look a lot better and cover up a lot of holes.
Gave his blood, sweat, and tears to this organization and to the fans, and was basically like carried in a lot of situations the org to massive success. And I personally do not feel, based off of admittedly limited information, that he was fairly compensated or ever fairly celebrated for what he did for this organization.
Completely
There were so
agree.
many times where it was going to be really exciting. Bjergsen's going to enter free agency. We'd be excited because maybe he'd like get what he was due, and he decided not to do that. And then you go see like what TSM was paying their team afterwards, and you just go like, oh god, like he did not get the bag that he probably deserves. So I think he stuck around a lot longer than necessarily he needed to. And the other thing I want to just clarify, and I know Lena put out some comments that in a Twitch chat, probably from Double Co stream or something, talking about the Bjergsen stuff, but like the narrative has kind of spun around the idea of like, oh, Bjergsen went to TSM, told them, I will only play with CoreJJ, get him or I'm out. I don't know. I'm sure at some point in time there was a conversation where he said he wanted to play with CoreJJ. I was not there. A lot of the stuff that I have heard was that TSM just kind of took for granted the idea that Bjergsen would stay and did not really roll out the carpet for him in the way that they could have. And I feel pretty confident based off of what I've heard. So I just don't think that people should...
And that is obviously very, very spicy because, again, a lot of what TSM makes you want to think and a lot of what Reggie said is that, hey, he told us, go get CoreJJ. We tried. They said no, and so he left. There's nothing we could do. That's all we could do. And again, Travis knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of reliable sources. He hears a lot of stuff. You guys have seen the videos he puts out in the offseason where, he calls it his predictions or whatever, and a lot of them come true. He has a lot of good sources. And if he's hearing that TSM could have done more to keep Bjergsen and refused to do it, that's got to be... How do you support this organization? Oh, my gosh. It's frustrating.
To be frustrated with Bjerg for leaving. I think they should be more frustrated with TSM for failing to retain him. I'm sure, again, that he wanted to play with Core. I do not think that that was the only thing, based off of multiple things that I've heard, that caused him to leave. And I certainly don't...
Especially because when Bjergsen talks about it, he just says that TL... The rosters they were planning on having, TL's roster was stronger than what TSM was planning. He didn't, he come out and said, he didn't say, I only went to TL because I had CoreJJ. He says the 5 players that they were promising was better than what TSM was promising. And again, TSM has this FTX money that they're refusing to spend.
I don't think that, based off what I've heard, TSM made like a really, really, really big effort to try to retain him. From my understanding, it felt as though they just were kind of taking it for granted that he would stick around. Finally,
Sad.
I'm sure a lot of TSM fans are frustrated by what they see is a lot of personalities in the space or industry folks kind of having this moment of schadenfreude when it comes to the organization struggling. Look, I'm just going to be fucking honest with you guys. Like, for the decade that I've been doing this, like, TSM has notoriously been one of the hardest orgs to work with. They kind of just leveraged the fact that they were massively popular and massively successful to, like, not really roll out the red carpet. Not roll out the red carpet, I should say.
And that's a big problem with what TSM's had. It's funny that this thing keeps coming up. They've leveraged their massive success, popularity to underpay players, to underpay Bjergsen and try and sell him short, to be dickheads to the media and all these people. And now even to this day, you still see things like that in the organization. You see Dunk saying, oh, don't listen to the bullshit takes and narratives from the media. And you see them, attacking media members and saying, telling fans this, that, whatever, and still keeping so many of these things, occurring over and over again. But now they can't bully people anymore. They can't treat people like this anymore because now they're the worst team in the LCS, and now, all of a sudden, when they can't bully people and treat people like this, like, hey, rumor has it, or at least allegedly under investigation, Reggie potentially treats people like that behind closed doors as well, Reggie all of a sudden isn't, saying anything on Twitter. All of a sudden, TSM isn't talking trash. But when they're on the top, they have no problem punching down at media, at their own players, at other teams, talking trash and taking digs at people. But now, if you do that same stuff to TSM, you're, a joke, you're a clown, you're whatever. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, use that for the Bjergsen thing. Different analogy. They have not really been open and good partners to a lot of folks. It was basically like, well, if you want to work with us, you better kneel down because you're TSM. And I've had a lot...
Which also makes it very, very hard, one, to be a content creator, cover the LCS, which helps the LCS grow, helps viewership, helps TSM, helps all the franchise teams and organizations, but also, TSM has been the biggest team. They have the biggest fan base. If you make TSM content, it gets more views. It does better. That can help you make more money. It can help you, be able to make content more often or do it full time or do a better job or whatever, which again helps everyone out. And if TSM is making things harder and making you jump through hoops, there's a chance that over the last couple of years, people have had to abandon content creation or abandon covering the LCS altogether because it hasn't been financially feasible because the biggest player, the biggest seat at the table, didn't want to help everybody else out and help build up that infrastructure of the LCS, which is, again, a huge, huge, huge mistake from TSM.
A lot of mixed feelings about TSM over the years because of this. Like, I've had great friends that have worked at that organization. I've had great friends that have played for that organization. I have rooted for them whenever they've been competitive at Worlds, even when they've not been competitive at Worlds. And so for me, I don't think I've ever been like a fucking TSM hater, but it is, I will be honest, I think for a lot of people, somewhat nice to see the organization humbled a bit based off of the way they treated people. So this is not just a
100%.
situation where folks are like, wow, just for no reason at all, frustrated with TSM in the past and now having like good feelings of it, like the frustration that the org probably feels about losing. I don't think people are like cheering against the players. I feel really bad for the players. In fact, that's what part of the reason I made this video is I feel really bad for the way that the community is treating some of the players on the roster. But I got to be honest, like, if you guys are wondering why it feels like folks are kind of taking passive-aggressive pot shots or reveling in this stuff, it's because, God, these guys have been really hard to work with in the past, and it has always just kind of felt like there was a huge ego thing because it was TSM. I think some of that stuff like fell into their player base or their fan base as well, and so there's just this moment of like, yeah, guess what? You're not hot shit. Maybe you should try to work better with folks.
And just treat
on
people
the topic
right.
of Dominic, this is my final moment for this. This is part of the reason why I really like Dominic. And I'm really disappointed with what I would consider to be like a fairly poor performance that he had on Hotline League last week. Because I think he should have been.
Stuff gets really, really spicy here. I will say I like Dominic too. I respect him a ton. He came on this channel. I'm glad that I got to talk with him. I've been a little bit critical of how he's handled things so far, but I also understand it's a very, very difficult situation. And he's not the top dog at TSM. You know, he doesn't have full control of every single thing that's going on and what he can and can't do. I think he can handle things better. I think it's a learning experience where I think he's really going to grow into this position. I think he's going to do better going forward. At least I really hope so. But stuff starts to get really spicy here. If you guys have stuck around this long in the video, it's well worth it because stuff gets good here.
Been able to say more. I don't know how much pressure he's getting from Andy to not say more. Like, for instance, again, I'm not speculating. This could be a situation. If, like, Andy's the one that came in and fired the coach and also decided Shenyi shouldn't be on the team, which, by the way, it wouldn't be the first time that Andy's like popped into the team and made decisions like this. Like, it's probably why he doesn't want to throw his boss under the bus about who's making the decisions. I don't know.
That is very, very spicy that Travis throws that in there. Now, obviously, that is complete speculation, but as a potential speculative scenario, that would make a lot of sense because Dominic went on Hotline League and they were just asking, like, hey, who makes these roster decisions? Who benches these players? You know, whatever's going on. And Dominic kept saying, hey, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I don't want to single anyone out. And that was super, super strange because with most teams, most organizations, you know who's calling the shots. Hey, was this a head coach decision? Was this a general manager? Was this you? You know, who's making these decisions? Somebody's making these decisions, and it's not calling somebody out or somebody's getting flamed or whatever. That's just how things work. You know, when you watch traditional sports, you know that, hey, the head coach sets the lineup, the head coach benches people, the head coach puts guys in, and that's fine. And it's just a sense of accountability, and so the fans know what's going on, and the fans know who's running the show or who's making these decisions, and maybe they can ask them why or how or whatever. But just to say no one is making these decisions, super, super weird. So is Reggie getting involved? I don't know. I don't know if I believe that, but that's spicy.
But again, I think Dominic didn't do great on Hotline League. Despite
A lot
all
of
that,
people were very
this is probably the first
not
guy that
happy.
I've known at TSM who's been trying to like reach out to media, reach out to other team owners, reach out to Riot. Everybody that I know that has talked to this guy, that I've talked to about it, have basically been like, he's trying to repair basically years of damage that the organization has done to their relationships within the industry.
It's going to be tough.
And
Good
so
luck.
I'm really worried that like Andy's going to need like a scapegoat and they're just going to like fire him at some point in time.
Hope not.
I
I don't
really
think
hope that's
so,
not the
though.
case because like I know fans are frustrated with his performance on Hotline League. I totally get why they should be, but I can promise you that like, in my opinion, this guy's actually trying to do a lot for the org and for their relationships and
think
trying
so,
to mend
too.
a lot of bridges. And I really would be sad if he left the org because he's been, from everyone I've talked to, basically like a breath of fresh air.
Seems like
So,
a good dude.
I'm not trying to talk on behalf of a bunch of people in the industry. I'm sure there's other people that have only ever had amazing interactions with TSM. We've certainly seen some folks come out and say that stuff before, but
That's funny.
don't be shitty about the players. Don't be shitty about Bjerg. Maybe understand why people are frustrated with the org. And, yeah, I don't know.
So I just thought, and that's the end. You know, he just goes into an outro. In the end, I thought that was a very, very good video. I thought, you know, obviously I've been telling you guys my thoughts and opinions on TSM. I think it's cool to see the thoughts and opinions from somebody else, and it's thoughts and opinions that pretty well align with my own. Like I said, I don't agree with necessarily everything he said, but I do agree with a lot of it. And obviously he comes at this whole thing from somebody with a lot more inside knowledge and inside perspective, but also somebody who's just been doing this longer than me and has had more interactions and more knowledge and more experiences. And I think it's very, very interesting and very, very telling. Again, I appreciate Travis dropping a big, spicy video like this, saying TSM is terrible, why TSM sucks, all this stuff. Because that could hurt some of his relationships behind the scenes. That could hurt him. And when you have something to lose, you don't always get to be 100% open and honest. You don't always get to post these big, spicy videos like this. And the fact that Travis still wants to go out and say something like this, one, it should really tell you about the severity of the situation, how strongly he feels about this. And two, I think it should be commended. So kudos to you, Travis Gafford. I appreciate what you're doing. I support you, and thank you for this video. I thought it was just very, very good. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so, so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Anything you have to say would be great. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.